7:10 in the morning. It is the SHOPO Hour with the fellas in studio. And gentlemen, I want to wish you all a very good morning. Brother Nick, good morning to you.
Morning, sir. Thanks again for having us back.
It is so good to see you. Brother Steve.
Rick, always happy and grateful to be here with you and your listeners. Good morning.
Oh, you got that deep, you got that Barry White voice going on today. Wow, I feel a Lou Rawls song coming up. Lady Love.
Oh, how about You'll Never Find?
Is it? That's the one. That's the one. And Brother Mark, aloha to you.
Morning. Happy Monday. Rick, Nick, and Steve.
There we go.
Good to be back.
Reunited.
Band's back together.
Feels so good. And there we go. All right, gents, we have a lot on the table, but I was mentioning to our friends on the air, I'm really very interested in the role of SHOPO in the lives of our officers and the impact to our community. I was wondering, gentlemen, would you mind walking us through the establishment of SHOPO, approximately when? And we'll take it from there. And Brother Nick, want to lead us off?
Yes, thank you. So SHOPO started in 1971. It was founded by our forefathers in the police department and in the union. Before that, police officers were at-will employees here. So essentially, they could show up to work one day after doing their job for several years, and the county could essentially say, I'm sorry, but you're not needed anymore. Thank you for your service. Have a nice day. You're terminated from employment. And that would have been the end of it. Since inception, we have been ratified by state law, so we exist as the only the only police union for police officers here in Hawaii. We represent all 4 counties, so every county has a police department, and their officers there are members in our union of the rank of lieutenant and below. We have 57 articles in our contract. We cover everything from hours of employment to wages, overtime, holidays, internal investigations, discipline, drug testing, subsidized vehicles. The list goes on. And we have a major say in how all of that plays out, how the departments can administer certain rules, what employee rights our employees have, our members have, just as everyday employees of the department.
Is there an outside agency? When we talk unions, you also have the word management that comes into play. Is management the administration led by Chief Joe, or is it really the mayor who's the CEO of the city and county?
So it's kind of a 3-part process. Okay. There's us as the police union, there's the department as administrators on the frontline level of the department, and then we typically call the employer the county. So the county agency itself, the mayor, and the Department of Human Resources on the county level.
Gotcha. Does a police commission get involved at any point with SHOPO issues, or do they have any role other than their primary role as commissioners?
Their primary role as commissioners deals directly with the department. We do have a venue with the police commission at times. They do come to us on occasion to ask us questions about how the union functions, what our role is, our relationship with police administration. They have been in the past very interested in what the pulse of our membership is, how our morale is. And if memory serves, once a year we do meet with the police commission because they do an annual review of the chief. So we are typically asked about 2 questions, maybe 3, with in-depth answers. So we give our input that way.
What would the lives and careers of our officers, what would it be like without SHOPO? Steve?
I think it would be vastly different, Rick. SHOPO's primary reason to exist is make sure that the men and women in the 4 county law enforcement agencies that we represent. Remember, we represent Honolulu PD, Kauai PD, Big Island PD, and Maui PD. And if the union didn't exist, you would be able to have counties and police administrators not having a guidebook on how to act. Nick had brought up earlier that in our contract we have 57 articles. So the key thing that we do as a union is make sure that those articles are followed. We're here to support membership in tangible ways, making sure that the contract is followed. And also, too, Rick, a key thing of what we do is we want to build relationships. As a union, we feel it's important to build relationships with police administrators because we have to have a robust and healthy line of communication with them and a good relationship. We want to build relationships with elected leaders in the different counties because, again, these are individuals that can make decisions that can impact our member base. Also, as a union, and it's one of the reasons we love being on your show, is we want to have the ability to make the community feel more connected with the men and women that wear the uniform throughout the different counties. As we've alluded to, and we shared with your listeners on the show before, the police officers that work so hard every day to protect and serve are actually not able to publicly come out and share things that may be of concern or to them. They have to keep their comments to themselves. Mm-hmm. And we understand there's a reason for that. As a union, we're able to literally be the voice for our membership in all the counties, and not only with the elected leadership, with police administration, but also with the communities that we protect and serve.
Mark, you want to jump in at any point? I know that serving through the ranks as from the beginning of your career, role of SHOPO for you.
For me, and I'm going to let it out there, I was really never a union guy, right? I wasn't into the union when I was patrol. And however, when I became an administrator, management, of course, I needed to know that contract because I wanted to make sure I followed it and didn't violate the contract for the officers, right? So, but throughout my career, there was a few things that I wasn't happy with SHOPO, as far as some officers being terminated and getting their jobs back, and a lot of guys felt that way, that this guy should not get his job back. However, the union has a fiduciary responsibility to represent these people, right? So if the department doesn't do a proper investigation or doesn't follow the contract, well, you got to give them their job back. So that's why, as an administrator, I think whether it be professional standards office or whoever's doing the investigation, make sure you follow that contract and do it thoroughly. Otherwise, SHOPO has a responsibility to represent the membership. So.
I think I remember reading of a story of a very controversial in nature of a situation as you described, where the individual was reinstated because the department had failed in the timeline of filing and meeting certain deadlines that they are responsible for, which negated everything else. And
it's specifically spelled out in the contract.
Yeah.
And, if I'm not... Yeah, actually, a couple of my... So on our promotional exams, there is SHOPO questions. And they're on their exams, those timelines. I remember those questions.
Was one of the questions, is Steve Keogh truly the most handsome of all SHOPO officials?
It's on every test.
Yeah, but a lot of people got that wrong.
Yeah. I'm going to stop there for a moment because I have to do primetime traffic. But when we come back, I'd like to continue the conversation so we can learn together. And by the way, if you'd like to jump in, 521-8383. Once again, it is the SHOPO Hour with the fellas in studio. The brothers are here, Nick, Steve, and Mark. As a matter of fact, we're learning more about the role of SHOPO. Mike, tell you what, can we take Mike's call? It's going to be a little off topic, and we can get back of the role of the union. And as a matter of fact, if you'd like to jump in, 521-8383, our number here in studio, please go ahead and give us a call. In the meantime, though, let's head on out. It is to Manoa, and Mike is online with us. And Mike, I want to thank you very much for your call, and a very good morning to you.
Oh, good morning to you, Rick. Yeah, sorry I am a little off topic here, but given your previous commentary with Jillian and talking about the uptick in property crime and then the bail reform and whatnot, I thought I'd jump in here. So I've seen an explosion in my neighborhood in Manoa in property theft, so much so to the point that, we're moving to a different part of the island. to try to mitigate that. So, if it's relocating from, our home, my family, strictly due to the amount of, nonsense going on in the neighborhood, right? And I really find that a hard pill to swallow, right? Essentially, I've been chased out of a neighborhood we've lived in for a long time. The thing that I wanted to say, obviously I've called HPD when these things happen, and they're always helpful, right? And they kind of explain to me that their hands are tied, that, they've arrested this person before, that, all the things that we've repeatedly talked about have been addressed on your show with SHOPO, right? All these challenges that they face. But I just wanted to say, and maybe get the take from the gentleman on the show today, my biggest fear, I have an 8-month-old daughter, I have a 7-year-old daughter, and a wife. And my biggest fear is that at some point, one of these perpetrators, is that I'm going to have to defend myself or my family, in some form or fashion. And, in the state of Hawaii, defending yourself and your property or your family, the way I read the laws, gets you in trouble. You're the one that's going to be doing the time. And I guess I would ask them, what is their best advice if you do find yourself in that situation? How do you handle yourself? Where, in other states like Florida and Texas, and I'm not talking about, firearms and stuff. I'm just talking about being able to physically defend yourself or your property from a real threat without then, jeopardizing your freedom and whatnot.
As a matter of fact, Mike, I want to thank you very much for your call, your comment, because you are expressing the sentiments of so many in our city. Gentlemen, I'll turn it over to you. Who would like to lead off with Mike's concerns?
When you hear, Mike, thanks for your call. We appreciate hearing from you. When Mike tells a story like that, it really is pretty gut-wrenching, isn't it? I mean, this is a guy, family man, gets up, goes to work every day, pays his taxes, does the right thing. And now you hear him kind of say, not throwing his hands up in the air going, I have to do something I don't want to do to do my, protect my family. As he's speaking, to me, Rick, this all comes down to elected leadership and laws on the books. Mike made a great point. Here, with the self-defense law, the way that it's written on our books is you have a duty to retreat. And that's a big, big statement right there. Meaning that if you want to claim self-defense, you basically have to attempt to retreat from that situation before you can take action. If I heard Mike correctly, he's a father, probably a husband, family man. You defend your family. And I would say not be reckless, but you worry about where the pieces fall after. If you're having one of the worst days of your life and somebody's coming at you and yours, and there's a decision between you or them, take them, right? Be proficient. Don't live in fear. But again, it all starts with the laws on the books. HPD, as a law enforcement agency, can only enforce the laws that the elected leadership passes. Supposedly, the elected leadership represents the values and feelings of the community. And I think it just goes back to we need to get people in positions of power and authority that can make decisions ultimately and have the wherewithal to not make our community more dangerous and less safe.
So I'm just going to say something. This is not a plug because it's very public that I'm a big supporter of the Byrna personal non-lethal device. Looks just like a gun. It does. I've gone down, I've trained with it, I've used it, and I have one myself. Because exactly what he said, we have to find ways that we can defend ourselves. And we don't necessarily want to go to a lethal way to do so. So the whole Bill 57 and discussion, I understand that's a very passionate issue. But if I want to defend my kids or what, I need something. And that's what I've chosen. What are your thoughts about people possessing a non-lethal device to help stave off situations and in some ways negate what could possibly be an even worse situation without it?
We do have certain ordinances and certain laws in Hawaii and Honolulu that do allow for personal protection to a certain extent, right? I mean, you can carry OC spray or mace with you and use it in a defensive nature. Now, tasers are legal for carry and use as well. So to a certain extent, that is definitely plausible. And to the caller, I just want to say, I'm really sorry that you feel so inclined to move out of Manoa. I worked in District 7 in that sector for a couple of years, and it is such a beautiful place to be and it's such a beautiful place to live that it's difficult to see people get so frustrated with that neighborhood that they want to say, you know what, I just give up, I'm out. So I'm sorry about that. Can you defend yourself to a certain extent? Yes. You wanted recommendation from my point of view on what to do or how to take it. My recommendation from a law enforcement standpoint would be just be careful how far you take it. That's probably where you're going to get on the hook for defending yourself, your property, or your family is how far you take it, if you can read into what I'm saying. But as far as personal protection devices go, if you're going to purchase them, please just be sure that they're legal to own and legal to carry and legal to use in this county and in this state. And then use them properly. Don't use them offensively, but use them defensively.
Right. And that's exactly the mission, is to stave off, as I said before, negate the imposing threat. It's so very important that we're able to do that. Mark?
Real fast. Mike, thanks for your call. Every officer in this department, we empathize with you because we see this crap every single day. These same people, over and over, people getting victimized, and what's happening to them? Nothing. When are we going to start holding these judges responsible? These judges are kicking these guys out. Nothing. Like, there was a guy arrested on the North Shore last week. Dozens and dozens of felonies. Stolen car, stealing stuff. He's out again. He should be locked up for another 20 years. Out. We need to hold these judges accountable. We haven't touched on these judges, but they are just unbelievable in this state. Okay? And as far as the non-lethal weapons, just be proficient with it. Because you hear a lot of these stories where people are using these self-defense mechanisms and it's being used against them because they're not properly trained with it. Right. So, that's all I got to say about that.
Dovetail, and you're right. It is the enforcement of laws. 1587 got killed last year. There was a whole, I talked with this with Jillian, a whole voluminous response once details of the bill were learned. Chiefs of police. We had many other organizations, even the author of the bill pulled it, said, I don't want this to go forward, veto it. Governor vetoed it. But they said, we'll be back. And boy, are they back.
Yeah.
In 1336, which is percolating and still alive, that has provisions where a 48-hour grace period, if you miss your initial court date, that bail can be levied, but you cannot have a bail that exceeds the ability to pay. Right here.
How do you navigate that, Rick? What does that language even mean?
Well, this is true.
Who determine? Right. This is where things are just getting. And obviously, this is lunacy.
It is.
How do you determine what somebody is able to pay? Are they bringing W-2s? Or, what's happening here? It's almost like I don't know, the people coming up with this. I don't know what universe or reality they live in, but I feel that there is such a disconnect between the people putting this piece of, I hate to even call it legislation. How does this represent the constituents? Is this what our community wants? If you, again, we've said it on your show before, not to be dramatic, do we want to be a Baltimore? Do we want to be a Seattle? Do we want to be San Francisco? All of these cities, beautiful cities. San Francisco is unbelievable, right?
Oh,
these are great cities with rich history. They're turning, everybody's leaving them. Can we as a community in all the counties step up, put our foot down and say, we are not going to allow influences from outside our beautiful state of Hawaii to impact how we govern here? And I'd like to think And Mayor Rick last year, he stood up, he called it what it is. We may not agree with Mayor Rick on everything, but one thing about this man that I appreciate, he's a straight shooter. You know how he feels. He stood up there with the other leadership when we all came together to shoot down this bail reform nonsense. He said, that's not happening in my city. I might be paraphrasing. Again, if this comes back, we need everybody en masse to come out and say, this is not how we're going to live. We are not going to live in fear. We're not going to have our lives that we've worked hard for and contributed to a productive, effective society get run down by, I think, a select few, okay, that want to just make our communities turn into a Seattle and other places. And now Seattle can't even hire cops. I mean, don't get me started on a tangent here, but it's a domino effect, Rick, which I'm sure you and your listeners can appreciate. You start breaking down certain fabrics within society, there comes a point where things are just, you can't come back from it.
And that's what you're seeing here. But you're seeing it not in the streets, you're seeing it in the big square building.
Yeah.
Because there are individuals in our community that want to dissolve law enforcement, that their advocacy is for the criminal who they don't view as a criminal. They're the ones that have been tortured during their lives. They have bad socioeconomic conditions. It's not their fault that they have to rob in order just to live and to get by and feed their blah, blah, blah. And the other part, I firmly believe this. This is part of the strategy to never expand the amount of prison space in this state. This is a whole convoluted issue that focuses on details as ridiculous as this, so maybe we'll focus on this when all of that is taking place that has even greater consequence. My question, I'm already way behind on this, is there going to be a coalition of voices again that will rise up? Are we getting that sense from our chiefs, from our mayors, from individuals in the big square, somewhere to where we can come together and unify of like-minded and like-prioritized people to not let this kind of crap go through?
Yeah, I think there is going to be. I don't think the public is going to put up with this. I'll tell you from a union standpoint, SHOPO isn't, that's for sure.
Yeah.
This is ludicrous last year, and it's ludicrous this year. And I'd like to think that the chiefs of police of all four counties will support us on this one, and the mayor again, because it's not making any sense. And I'd like to say one last thing.
Sure.
The biggest travesty that will happen from this will be that the average everyday citizen, possibly like our caller that just came on a little while ago, is going to either give up and leave, or they're going to get pushed to the point where they do something that they've never done before and probably would never do if they weren't put in the position of insanity like that.
There we go. SHOPO Hour continues in just a moment. Bottom of the hour break. Brother Nick, Brother Steve, Brother Mark, and Brother Bobby, always top of mind. I want to make sure that we have time together, and we'll make time after this.
KHVH Traffic.
I just wanted to hear the whole theme song of SHOPO play because it's such a catchy tune. Now, we're having a chat off air, but we want to bring you on air at 521-8383. Where it is an important call today with the brothers in studio. We were dovetailing a bit on, and Nick left us with that, yes, there is going to be a prayerful, unified voice, and SHOPO, without a doubt, is the leading voice in concerns about 1336. Before we transition out, any other thoughts along the lines that we've been conversing about? Anything else you'd like to share, add, etc.?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of Nick, how about we get all the police chiefs, the mayors, everybody involved to the ledge? How about we build a prison? Let's get this thing going. This prison should have been built 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Let's go.
I've related the story.
Right? Yeah.
This is a 28-year issue for me personally.
Yeah. And build it big enough, not in a small little prisons. Build it big enough to put people in it,
Well, I'm going to put my Christmas wish list together, and I think Santa Claus will probably bring us a prison before the majority party in this state. That's unfortunate to say, but
Rick, if I could just
Yes,
jump in here.
of course.
You know, SHOPO is a union. We represent law enforcement professionals statewide. Okay, those law enforcement professionals want to keep the communities that they protect and serve safe. It's only natural then that in the capacity of protecting our unions that we get involved and we also step up and work in conjunction to keep the community safe. We have a relationship with Mayor Rick. We have a relationship with each one of the police chiefs. With Police Chief John Pelletier on Maui, Chief Todd on Kauai, Chief Ben on the Big Island, and of course Chief Joe here in Honolulu. I would say each one of these competent police leaders are not going to allow their officers to be put in harm's way by these dangerous bills, following that up with the communities, the law enforcement agencies that they lead, that they're not going to let the community suffer. We will come together. We will come together, Rick. And you were very instrumental the previous year, last year, keeping everybody informed, in the loop. You had sharp legal minds chime in on this too. We can all come together as a team, and we can defeat this nonsense. With I believe that strongly.
amen. Amen. Brother Mark, I understand we have an update on the condition of an officer who was recently injured on duty.
Yeah, so Officer Felix Gazman. Hey, Felix, I know you're listening. How you doing out
brother.
there? So I went to see him yesterday at the hospital. He's in really good spirits. He had his last major surgery the other day. He's got one minor one left, and then hopefully, he'll leave and go to rehab. But he's doing it well, and we wish him well, and he wants to come back. He wants to get back to work.
Yeah.
Serve the public. This is a guy that always has a smile on his face. Amazing officer. So Felix, hang in there. Get out of that hospital bed, and we love you, man.
Amen. Well done. Anyway, can we help in any way?
Well, we got
It's
there's a
GoFundMe.
fundraiser coming up.
Okay.
But it's for first responders only, though, not the public. And then
Okay.
then there's a GoFundMe page.
Okay.
that
Sure,
you
the
can help
public,
out.
Rick,
Yeah.
can go to shopohawaii.org. It's going to be right there on our community page. If they want to contribute to help, that would be outstanding.
All right. Sounds good. And Felix, all the best, brother. All the very, very best. I understand that a bill legalizing jaywalking is going forward in the big square building.
My God.
I just want to know this. Is it a no-host bar at the legislature? Is that what we're seeing this session? Goodness. What is this? I mean, it sounds like it's kind of, I don't want it to be humorous, but I'm laughing because it's so unbelievable. We're installing speed bumps because we're trying to mitigate traffic to enhance safety. But on the other hand, we're passing a law that says if you're crossing the street, anytime, anywhere, any whatever. What's that?
I think you're going to start to confuse the community as to when they can do it, when they can't. Initially, when you hear it, you say, that's outrageous. What are you talking about? But then you step back and you say, okay, if this were to even pass, how would it be implemented? How would the community be educated? Obviously, there's times when you can do it and then times you can't. And you can just imagine the fiasco that would be with enforcement and then this kind of thing. Nick, how many people have been killed in crosswalks so far this year? Don't we already have an issue with that, right? And then you take in the fact that we have so many people from all over the world coming to our state that have never been here before, and we give them rental cars, and they're this is Hawaii. They're not even paying attention on the road. I just think it creates a very dangerous situation.
Nick?
So these laws are in place not to inconvenience people. They are in place originally to make sure that cars or motor vehicles on the roadway don't get into collisions and that pedestrians are protected
Right.
and don't get into collisions either. They're not meant to just be a hassle when you need to get across the street quickly or that you're running late and so you can't just jet through traffic or anything like that. To deregulate them is silly. It's stupid. I think last week we talked about the amount of traffic fatalities and critical traffic incidents we'd had this year so far. Since our last show, we've had 2 more. There was one bicyclist that was struck, hit and run on King Street, and there was another motorcyclist on Kapiolani Boulevard 2 nights ago that was clipped in a hit and run. Again, both incidents also, by the way, between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m.
My son rides a bicycle because it's more efficient for him to attend college. And I bought him the fluorescent vest and lights on his bike, and I have a lot of concern for him because I know he's responsible when he rides. There are some who are not. Let's make it clear. It's a two-sided story. But I see the drivers. I see the way people drive in this town. They're irresponsible. Not everybody, but there is an irresponsibility to where it just takes one flashing moment and it changes everything. The last thing, and we have a caller, the last thing is the speed bump on Kapiolani.
We were talking about that earlier.
What the?
Where'd
Listen,
that come from?
I'm not trying to disrespect anything or anyone, or you got to be kidding me. That's the reply. We're gonna get on it and we're gonna put speed. You have a guy that was arrested 100+ times.
Yeah.
What the hell is he doing on the street? That's the issue of safety, not putting up a speed bump where you have thousands and thousands and thousands of drivers every day that now have to negotiate that, impacting traffic. I guarantee you're going to have a more unsafe area because of that. Steve?
I was just going to say that expression, put a Band-Aid on it. Are we getting to the point now where it's put a speed bump on it? Just
there we go. Let's go ahead and go to the phones once again, and I want to thank Steve Kaneohe for your call. Are the headphones working, or are they?
This one don't work.
That one doesn't work. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. Steve, you're going to be on KHVH Radio. A very good morning to you.
Good morning. This issue about the crosswalks is really important. This morning, there was a motorcycle cop on Kainalu and Kaha Street, right by Kainalu Elementary School, and that's a really good idea because you have all kinds of people besides pedestrians. Well, especially the worst thing are these one-wheel uniboard things that these people ride on, and they weave in and out, and today everyone was obeying there's also a crossing guard there, a lady who's done the crosswalks for years. But they used to have, you know how the crosswalks used to be 2 bars going across and you walked in between them, and now they've reversed them and they're lines going with traffic? There was 11 bars, and some smart person wrote the word Hawaii there as a crosswalk. And it was there for years, and then they made them take it out because they said it was defacing the roadway with striping. Maybe if people knew, crosswalk Hawaii, we could get some safety. But thanks for doing a great job, and have a great day.
Steve, thank you very much for the contribution. Gentlemen, response to Steve's call. And by the way, if I can turn to Nick for a moment, you mentioned before about these two-wheeling psychotic, and both you and Steve were harping on that before.
Yeah, we talked about that last week as well. There's a lack of regulation on that. There's a lack of regulation for riding or operating. There's a lack of regulation on who you can sell it to and who's appropriate to ride it at what age limit. Lots of different problems. But, to the caller, yes, uniform presence is a deterrence in and of itself. That is something that is drilled into us in police all the time. If we have the time, if we can make the time in the course of the day, we're more than happy to sit in hot spots like that and monitor traffic to kind of get some type of compliance. Don't take the term compliance as something aggressive. Compliance is a good thing. Compliance saves lives, compliance prevents accidents, and compliance can also be used by law enforcement as an education tool. So we're happy to help out when we can.
Gentlemen, we're up against the clock, 7:50. Let me take this break. We have plenty of calls that we'd like to get to in the time remaining with Brother Nick, Steve, and Brother Mark in studio. The SHOPO Hour continues in a moment. It is 7:50.
KH.
All right, we are back. It is 7:52 in the morning. It is the SHOPO Hour. Let's go back to our friends online, and we go to Kailua. And Lewis, I thank you for your patience. Good morning. You're on with the boys from SHOPO. Hello.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Some of these legislatures that making these kind of like bills that to us are like, wow, you guys insane. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe we just haven't worked hard enough at ending these people's careers.
Well, you are basically trumpeting what this program has been talking about for 30 years.
Yeah.
And that is exactly that. It is as long as we fail to cast an educated vote, and we do so en masse with the majority of people in our community doing so, you deserve what you get. This is on us, ultimately. And I want to thank you for bringing that point up, Mark. I think that you've harped on that before.
Lewis, thanks for the call. And you're 100% right. We need to vote a different way. All these politicians, they're typical examples of not representing their constituents and putting their personal ideals into place once they get elected. They got to listen to their constituents, but they don't care. They get in because they're going to get voted in because they have that D in front of their name.
It's 7:54. Thank you, Lewis, for the call. We appreciate it greatly. John in Makakilo, welcome to the program and good morning.
Good morning. I had a question about the bicycle riding. I know back when I was a small kid living in Waikiki, we were told to ride against traffic. Is it illegal, like out on the open road, to ride opposite traffic or what?
John, hold on for a moment. And brothers, who would like to take that call?
Well, bicyclists have to abide by the rules of the road just like a vehicle. So, if you're riding against traffic, technically illegal. Yes.
That is illegal.
Yes.
What about lane diving and lane changing? Because I'll see bicycles, and I don't get why they do it, but they'll merge into traffic without really taking a look at the flow of traffic, and it seems like they expect that their cars will respond. And the other is going through at stoplights while cars are stopped. The bicyclists will continue through and ride through, and some will ride through stoplights and etc.
Yeah, so when I was patrol, I wrote many citations because they have to abide by the traffic rules. Goes to court, judge throws it out. Judges. That's all I'm going to say.
Anyway.
Rick, if I could just jump in. I know that the Hawaii Bicycle League does a good job trying to educate the community about the rules of the road, so to speak, and a safe way to operate the pedal bikes. Maybe when you talked about kind of jetting in on traffic, I said, how many times do you see these bicyclists with this entitlement they can take up a whole lane by themselves? You'll see them at an intersection. And I don't have it in front of me, but I believe that they're supposed to be 3 feet from the curb line. And fortunately, on some roadways here, we have the bicycle only, which is wonderful. Yeah. But I know I saw the Hawaii Bicycle League a few days ago, actually, out and about somewhere trying to educate people. And I know I appreciated that for many reasons. But the bicyclists are supposed to be close to the curb line and not take up an entire lane where the cars then back up behind them.
No sidewalks.
No.
Bikes.
In
no
Waikiki,
sidewalks.
it's certain areas.
Yeah.
Certain areas.
Districts.
Business districts cannot. Waikiki cannot.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, John, for the call. And let's see, how are we doing on time? Let's go. Junior, we have just a moment, but want to make sure that we get your comment and question on the air. Junior, a very good morning to you.
Rick, thanks for doing your community service to our islands. Gentlemen, I addressed this problem a couple of weeks ago. But as much as that person is out and about that makes the crime, what about the hidden people that are in the gaming rooms all over the islands when it's so sad because there's a lot of drugs and other things involved in addition to gaming? What can we do about these gaming rooms that are all over the island and people, Hawaii, are losing our monies?
All right, Junior. Yes, we've heard from you before, but I'll turn it over to the fellas.
I just two things that came to mind. Number one, I know Chief Joe and his team here in Honolulu specifically, they have a strategic plan to, I believe, put more manpower and more investigators onto exactly that concerned. I can also share with you that a buddy of mine, I can't get into too much detail. I worked with him. He recently switched over to that detail, and he's extremely competent in his position. And I know that the officers work hard. We're aware of it. I just think it has to do with resources, manpower, because to the caller's point, they're literally everywhere.
I was going to ask, do we have an idea of the number? I mean, pervasive is a good word.
That's
maybe.
a good word.
Yeah, pervasive's the word for it.
It's frustrating because we're closing them down. You know, our narcotics vice division, awesome. Our crime reduction units are closing. We're closing them down, but as fast as we're closing them down, they're opening back up. So what's the underlying issue?
This is what
prosecutors,
killed,
judges. I don't know.
Well, no, I think it goes a step further. How in the world can we profess to have $1 billion plus surpluses, and we're not dedicating to the priorities at hand?
Well, wasn't there something, Rick? And I don't want to speak without having full information. Wasn't there something though where the property owners were going to be held accountable or something, that if they were knowingly renting? Again, as a property owner, but something about if the game rooms are operating within an establishment, the person that owns that land, own that building, kind of, are they aware of that? I think there was something navigating towards making sure that they didn't allow that to happen too.
It
right?
was actually a mirroring of property owners and drugs that we experienced in downtown, especially up and down Hotel Street, with specific buildings that were seized. And I think there's a parallel to that with gaming, but it's not quite there yet.
Okay, thanks.
Gentlemen, a heck of a morning. Brother Nick, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Rick, appreciate you as always.
I'm still saying, most handsome man.
I
in
appreciate you
SHOPO.
Rick, I appreciate you keeping your shoes on this show.
Thank you very little. Brother Mark, we got to go.
It's been good.
But thank
Thanks
you
for all
much.
the callers.